Hey, what's up, Form? It's Gorillahands, and I'm bringing you another gameplay commentary. Today I've got LBS with me. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, LBS?
Well, by now I guess everyone's heard me a couple of times. This is low blood sugar. For some reason I keep coming back to this. I don't know why. We haven't run everybody off yet, so I guess I do okay. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's probably pretty standard for you now. Today we're not going to talk about the gameplay. We're going to talk a little bit about a topic that you brought up, LBS. You brought this up on the forums, on the Forum Boys website. It's stats. We'll talk about stats in Call of Duty, but stats in general. What are your kind of opinions of stats in Call of Duty?
Well, I've got two minds about it really. Because I'll go ahead and talk about why I actually like stats. It gives me something to try to improve on. It gives me something to shoot for. But on the other hand, while those are really good things, and I know a lot of people that play, they set a goal like I want to get a 2.0 kill death ratio, and they set that goal and they play for that goal, and that's what keeps them coming back to play every day.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can turn around on the other hand, and a lot of the frustration that comes out of these games are directly related to stats.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see people a lot of times you see people say dashboarding or backing out of games early, and they're doing that because they feel like their stats are getting hurt too bad, and it's like their entire reason for playing is to have good stats. And personally, I play to have fun.
Yeah.
I like to have good stats at the same time, but it's not a driving factor like it is for some people. And a lot of times, I think a lot of the I don't want to say controversy, but some of the problems, I think a lot of them could really be eliminated if you didn't have stats just sitting there staring right at you.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I'm actually probably right in line with what you're talking about. COD, I always say this, but COD 4 is my favorite game, and part of that was because no one could see my. I didn't know anyone could see my stats, but no one really, unless you're on my friends list. But I didn't even know what good stats were. I just played it to have fun, and not only did I not really even care at all about the stats then, but nobody really, whenever I played, knew what good stats were really. Everybody just kind of had fun. But I guess as the game became more and more popular, and you got different means of viewing all these stats, it became more important. I can't remember. I remember people, like, I guess, dashboarding or rage quitting in COD 4. But that was more because they were just getting their ass kicked. I don't think they were worried about their stats. I just think they just didn't want to get pounded. So, I can understand leaving then, but the dashboarders, the one that want to preserve their stats, it kind of ruins games, and I don't know, it detracts from the fun, I think.
Exactly. And World at War had the much improved stat tracking ability in that game. And if you notice, World at War, at least for me, I didn't play a lot of COD 4, but I played enough where I didn't see a lot of people dashboarding. And it may have been just if I saw it, I didn't know what it was. But at least from my perspective, World at War was the first Call of Duty game I saw a lot of dashboarders.
Yeah,
I think that was because it was the first one with the in-depth stats, and you had the lobby leaderboard right there, so you could see who you were playing against. And
that makes sense. And I mean, and then I guess that kind of, when Modern Warfare 2 came out, it was such a large entertainment release. You have so many people, even people that might have played it casually, played COD 4 casually. Now they got a large group of friends, all who's got the higher KD and stuff like that. Not everybody does it, of course, but it does happen. Now, the other thing, though, is, there are negatives to stats, but I mean, where would you draw the line? Not just in COD, but in games in general. You had mentioned you played NCAA, and I can remember in college, anytime I visited a friend who had the game, you'd always have some guy going, "Oh, are you good? Yeah, I'm good," and you kind of square off. They'd have a little competition. So I mean, there's always a little competition in video games, but I mean, are kind of stats important? Like, if you played it online, would you want NCAA stats kept for you, or would you even care?
Like for NCAA football, I just enjoy playing that game just because I'm a big football fan.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably actually like to see my stats in that more so than I would in Call of Duty, but it depends on what stats are kept. I'd like to see the stats of my players, but in my win-loss. But the thing that gets me a lot of times with stats in a game like that versus stats with Call of Duty is I think people when you go into a game and you look at somebody's stats, people are automatically judging you based on your stats in this game. And, I guess it's valid to do that to some extent, but I think that's why a lot of people really strive to try and keep high stats because they don't want other people to think they're bad at the game. But I never remember a game really mattering that much. Who cared if you were good or bad?
Oh no, no, no. If you don't have a high KD, you can't get the job. I mean,
Yeah,
my
exactly.
my wife won't even look at me if I get below a one. So I mean that's a big deal. You guys better, if you're listening to this, you better work on your KD or it's a rough life ahead of you.
Yes, women will never look at you again.
Yeah, I mean that's how, you go to a bar. That's how you pick up chicks.
Exactly. I'm gonna get my kill death tattoo.
God,
It's gonna be awesome.
could you imagine? Um, But no, yeah, I mean, it's I guess it's a little double-edged sword, and it depends on the person. I mean, I imagine the younger generation, people that have been growing up on
Oh,
COD, that's
definitely,
kind of a big,
definitely.
yeah, that's a big bragging rights, like I guess in middle school and in high school or something like that for certain people.
Yeah, I know. I was saying at one point in time. I remember when I was in high school, you never even heard people talk about how good they were at video games
No.
all that often. Like you might hear a couple people talking about a popular game, but you would never hear somebody be like, "Yeah, you got a problem with me?" It used to be, "Why don't you meet me outside after school?" Now what is it? Come on, you got a problem with me? Let's 1v1 on Nuketown after school.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
yeah, I couldn't imagine.
it's
Well,
definitely a different,
different mentality.
different mentality about it for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, we got about 3 minutes to wrap up. You played a little Crisis 2. I know Stabby talked about it, and he had pretty positive opinions about it. But you seem to have different opinions. You mind letting me know what you think?
Yeah, I'm not gonna say that it's not a fun game, but first off, I just guess I need to lead in with the fact that I am not as big of a first-person shooter fan as a lot of guys on the forum
Hmm.
probably are. I started gaming with Red Alert and Madden,
Hmm.
and those are still real-time strategy sports games, still hold my interest. It wasn't until Call of Duty 4 that I really got into shooters more.
Hmm.
I'd always played Medal of Honor, but just sort of jokingly with friends, we'd go into a free for all or whatever mode they had, with the two controllers versus the bots or something like that on the PlayStation 2. But
Hmm.
so if for a first person shooter, for me to really think it's a great game, it's got to bring me something a little different. Or with Call of Duty, what I enjoy is yeah, I know it's not completely realistic, but it's got at least a heavy dose of realism to it.
Hmm.
When the players run, you don't be like, man, how's that guy running so fast? It's ridiculous. You think, well, I guess I could do that if I worked really hard at it. But with Crisis, it was sort of a futuristic setting, and the one thing that I guess got me right to start with was how fast my players sort of run around the map.
Hmm.
And there's some aspects of it that I like, but just the feel of it to me, I didn't get that little tinge of realism that I like to have in a game.
Is it? Do you think it's more the tightness in the controls, or is it just the overall aesthetics of the game?
It's a combination of both. I still plan to play the demo a little more, but because there's two different game modes, and I just unlocked the second game mode last night, I believe it was. So I still got to try that a little more, but it was a combination of just the feel of the game. I've been trying to explain it to people the past few days and had trouble putting it in context, but and I'm like that though. I don't really care for first-person shooters all that much. Some people say it's like if Halo, Battlefield, and Call of Duty all got together and got stirred up and dumped out, and this is what you have. And I'd say that's fairly accurate. And of those games, I enjoy Call of Duty the most. I had some fun with Battlefield, just goofing off. But I've never been a big Halo fan because of how many shots it takes to kill somebody and how high you jumped and all that stuff. And this game has a lot of those aspects in it. So I think a lot of first-person fans will like it, but it just wasn't for me.
Yeah. Well, I haven't played it yet. I played the first game, and I wasn't a big fan of it on PC. But I'll have
All
to
right.
give it a try. But appreciate you giving your input, and have to have you on here sometime in the future. The final score was 32-6. Thanks for coming on, LBS. And as always, guys, take it easy.